Howdy folks, Heems Thornbeard here. This is our first lore dive video. We did a poll about a week ago on Twitter, and we're finally getting around to getting this filmed. I was in the process of making the second video that went up on Tuesday. Still figuring out some technical issues here on our end between microphones, cameras, layout, all that kind of stuff. I need to find a better place to put my notes because I really want to be able to talk more directly to you and spend less time looking at the screen. Quarantine hair, kind of do care. But anyway, that being said, let's get right into our lore dive. And what we're going to be talking about today is actually my personal world. And it is a reskinning essentially and relocating of a lot of things in the Forgotten Realms. I'll kind of make a note of where and what they are, of how I came up with this or that or the other thing as we go. I don't really have a name for this old wives' tale, so if you can think of a good one, put it in the comments down below, and that's what we'll use going forward. Anyway, this is actually based off the first character I ever played. It was a half-elf paladin of the Raven Queen. He was all set up to be a Grey Guard and be this epic character and all this stuff, right? But this is all before I figured out that Dungeons & Dragons is not a single-player game. After dragging my brother-in-law and my sister into it. So the story goes that this paladin, having just come into his powers, returned home from some sort of military campaign with his friend Rogar, a dragonborn fighter, and his cousin Miali, to find his human mother in a sickly state, and his elven father was sort of dabbling in magical arts to find a way to cure her. Of course, being the dutiful son that he was, him and his companions set off to find a cure for his mother. So their quest led them in fairly short order to a silver mine that had recently been abandoned and overrun by goblins. And then when the players arrived, they realized that the goblins had actually been overrun by undead. And at this point, they should have known better than, with just 3 of them, to delve deeply into this mine to find, whatever was causing this issue. But being inexperienced as they were, they decided to press their luck, and they continued overcoming most of the obstacles therein fairly easily. But once they reached the end, they faced a foe that they weren't quite sure what it was, but it was definitely far more powerful than what they expected, and were quickly overcome. And thus ends the wives' tale, because those 3 characters were never seen or heard from again until about 50, 100 years later, something like that. A similar group of adventurers came to the exact same town to find a lord who was a powerful elven mage at this point, looking after his sickly human wife. Foreshadowing. He entreated these new adventurers to go and find what had happened to his son and their companions in this mine, with the promise of helping them on their quest. So, at this point, the new heroes, who actually would go on to become just that, heroes, ventured into this mine far better prepared and far more cautiously than the original group, and they came upon the scene of this last battle. And, at this point, these players had heard the story, and they knew only that these people had disappeared. But actually finding them, they were like really excited. They were like, hey, these are, these adventurers from before. And they found that all three had been turned to stone, and the paladin may have been the cause of it, because in his upraised hand was an ebony sphere, and in the other hand was a shattered broadsword. Not really being able to figure out at the time what happened with either of those things. They decided to take them back to the Lord and have them examined. So that was the first step on this new group's journey to becoming the heroes of the Gods War, which we will get into in our second lore video, lore dive video, and we'll pick up there next time. I'm going to talk briefly about some things in this, like more meta. What happened with those original characters was I was very new to DMing, and I was terrible. I was playing, I was running, and I was railroading the hell out of that campaign to make my paladin the coolest guy ever. And my brother-in-law and my sister who were playing, just were like, oh, this is the one-man show. What are we even doing here? So that's why, our session ended as we had entered that room, and I just had to kind of wing what had happened to us in the fact that we had never returned, never, completed that mission. But it made for a good story for the next group. So, learned a little bit there. Then for the War of the Gods, which again, we're going to cover that in our next lore dive video, but that actually was heavily inspired by the wonderful podcast Critical Hit. They have some great videos, or recordings, I guess you could say, of just DM tips and tricks and that sort of thing. So I'll put a link down below. And from them, I believe, is where I got turned on to Donjon as well. Fantastic resource for DMs, players alike, looking for any kind of inspiration from the types of items you want, to character names, to NPCs. If you want to generate some friends or family, that sort of thing, great resource there. And I'm sure this won't be the last time I mention them or talk about it, or how fantastic it is. It's just one of those go-to resources for me. But yeah, so this is actually going to segue into our next flavor of the week, because I'm going to breathe new life into that old character, Ryan Oakden, using the broken sword, which again you'll see in Tuesday's flavor of the week video. So hopefully you tune in then. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, give a like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't. Did I talk too much? Did I not talk enough? Did I stay on topic? Let me know. See you soon.